Practice time. You may notice in the last few videos I got the same shirt on. That's because this is really high tech, guys. You know, really high tech, guys. It's a really, really big show. Anyway, I do a lot of these in the chair because I gotta set it up. I gotta get the lighting right. Once I get it, I'm gonna run a whole bunch of stuff. So let's talk about practice. Practice. I have not done a video like this. I have no focused thing to teach you today except what is practice. One of my favorite guys on YouTube, I call him the 60-40 guy. It's really the 80-20 guy, right? 80-20 drummer. Has a lot of videos on this and the 10,000 hour rule and all that kind of stuff. And my last interview, I'm not sure if this is going to come out first or that will. He talks about that 10,000 hour rule. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. But practice is crucial, depending where you are. If you're a beginner, you need to be playing a minimum of 2 hours a day. Minimum. I don't think that's enough. When I was a kid, I played anywhere between 2 and 6 hours a day. Yeah, I did. My parents hated me. They hated me. I don't care. So, anyway, I'm sorry. I wish I could say that really bothered me. It doesn't. That it bothered them. I don't care. There are so many skills you have to learn when you're new, right? When you're new. But I think if you're older and you have a certain amount of neural maps created in your mind, in your motor cortex, and I'm getting scientific now. I think maybe you could hone that down to 2 hours, right? If you're new. If you're not, and if you're like me, if you're quote unquote professional, I hate using that word. I really hate using that word, guys. I don't even know what the word pro means. Does it mean that I've gotten paid for what I do? Yeah, and that's a pro. Does it mean that I'm a certain level? What level am I at? I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself in Vinnie Caliuta's level. I wouldn't put myself there, right? So am I a guy that will get you through a gig and do a good job? Yep, I am. Yep, I am. Do I have skills I can rely on? Yes, I do. But am I Vinnie Caliuta or Steve Gadd? No, I'm not. I'm not. But it doesn't mean that I'm not a pro. It doesn't mean that I'm not a pro, right? It depends how you define it. So, but let me talk about my practice. What does Glenn do? What do I do? So I have usually the beginning of my practice, when I first sit down, I kind of loosen up, right? I loosen up the limbs, and that means I just do some single stroke rolls, and I do some stuff on the pad, and then I usually wrap up, and I usually spend between, I don't time it out. I don't do 20 minutes or 10 minutes. I do what feels good to me at that moment, and what I have time for. What I have time for, that's it. Time for. That's a thing. Now, I'm going to say this. If you are pro and you play regularly and you've really created those neural maps, I don't necessarily think you get to practice every day. But when you practice every day, you should have a goal and you should have focus, right? So when there's another gentleman who talks about the Bonham engine. All right, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit too. If you've seen the Bonham engine, that's a cool thing to get your limbs warmed up. You know what I mean? It's a 16-note pattern. Could be triple the pattern. And you got your hi-hat and your bass drum doing 16 notes with you. It's very cool. I'll demonstrate that during the course of this video. And then what? then what do? And then I go to a focused time of work. A focused time of work. Something I'm trying to get. Lately I've been working on my metric modulation. I've been working on 6/4, right? And really switching to 6, right? Right, making that transition, playing in 4, picking a time on the metronome, and then switching to 6. And I do that a number of different ways. I do that where I keep my foot playing 4 and I have my hands playing in 6. And I do that. I do it where I completely just move into 6 while the metronome is clicking on 4 still. And I hear 4, but I'm also hearing the 6 over it. I just hit my bear in the head, sorry. Anyway. So that's something I'm working on right now. There's a couple of licks I'm working on, right? There's a couple of licks. I don't know if I'm ready to show you yet, so I don't know if I'm going to. And they're just some crossover licks I'm working on just for soloing. So I might throw all that in together, right? I have a sheet on an Afro-Cuban sheet, and I might work on that a little bit. Now that's my last thing, because I don't have any Afro-Cuban gigs on the schedule. I have very few gigs on the schedule, and I'm one of those people, and this is wrong or right. You may fall into this category too, right? If I don't need to practice it, I have a hard time motivating to do that, right? I don't have any.
You lucky bastard! Who's that? You lucky bastard!
Do that. Right, I don't have any Afro-Cuban gigs coming up. I have a couple of Afro-Cuban things that are ready to go all the time. This would be an advanced thing of that. I suppose if I got a call, I would start working on those really, really hard. For now, I'm working on more, the one girl I'm playing with, Tasha Owens. I'll put a clip of us in there. She usually requires a solo of me every night, and so I work on stuff that I might use in that solo. You know, and that's really kind of a lot of Bonham-y things that I might put in there, and I really take apart a lot of Bonham stuff, and I do that in those solos. So this is what I do, and then I take, if there's time, I take the last part of my practice and I work on songs. And when I say work on songs, sometimes I just play through them for fun. And especially now, it's really important right now, more so than other times. Because of the pandemic, most of us, pros, whatever, we're playing way less than we normally play. Way less than we normally play. And because of that, right, there are some things that you do on a gig or that you get from a gig that you just can't get anywhere else. And it's the playing with other people. It's that communication. Even in time, it's the give and take. Oh, by the way, I do spend some of my practice working with time. I usually spend, and not every practice, I might put the metronome on, have the metronome clicking on 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, and that's kind of fun to play regular 4 over that and have the metronome clicking that way. I'll put the metronome on 2 and 4 and work that way. So, and then sometimes I'm working on a very tough lick and I've got that metronome clicking on all 4. So I work on time as well. There are some things that you just can't get in your practice room. And so even this doesn't come close to that. Playing with a song on your phone is not the same as a gig, right? Because you are going to have to navigate the bass player's interpretation of time, the guitar player's interpretation of time, where the singer's coming in, how hard you're hitting, how hard you're not hitting, all that kind of stuff. But the next best thing is playing with a record, right? At least listening to how somebody else did it and stealing some of those things so that you can do it. This is what it's about. Because especially now where I'm playing once or twice a month as opposed to, you know, a minimum of twice a week, those skills of stage communication, those skills, I'm saying it again, of stage communication can get rusty. Case in point, I went 6 months from, I think, October to the first gig I had in February. And the first 2 songs, me and the bass player, we felt it. We felt it. It took us a minute to get our bearings, you know? And it's a guy I play with regularly, and I know he tends to play just a little bit ahead of me. You know, he plays on top of the beat, and there's something about that. We can talk more about that in a different video. I tend to play dead center or behind. And so our placement of notes has always fallen in right away. And having been out of practice with him, it took me a second to just remember where I put it. You know, either I started to follow him or he started to follow me. And that's really, if he just does what he does and I do what I do, we find our place and the pocket sounds really good. And I think it's because there's a little bit of like a little nanosecond space. You know, we're locked in, but he's right ahead of my beat. Just here's my 8th notes and Joe is right there. And I think that's what makes the pocket so good. It gives the song energy. But when we're not working together, and I'm not working at all, like I wasn't for 6 months, that difference might have been here, you know, it might have been here, and it took us a second to get it back. The second gig we did about 3 weeks later was much better. So there are some things you can learn from the stage that you just can't get anywhere else. You just can't get it. That's why I recommend, if you're practicing, go to the jams. If you haven't really played professionally, go to the jams. Do it. Do it.
Can I get you 2 a drink?
You sure can, sweetheart. Johnny Red neat, okay?
Okay.
Do it. Do it.
All right. And you?
Do it. Bacardi and cola, do it, do it.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Do it. Go to the jams. Play with them. And yeah, you know, you might get yelled at. You might get embarrassed. If you're a newbie. If you're a pro and somebody criticizes you and says you're dragging, listen, you know, you got to do both. You got to take it with a grain of salt. Don't take it personally. And then think, okay. It happened to me when I was on cruise ships. I was letting the horns push me around. And it took me a minute. It took me back my first year to really, you know, I was used to playing in 4 or 5 piece bands. I was playing in a 12, 13 piece band, and the horns were definitely strong-arming me. And it took me a second. But let me tell you, I ended up getting known as the quartz clock on those ships because I made it happen and I worked my butt off. What did I do? I put the metronome on beat 4 and I practiced with the metronome on beat 4 until time was part of my middle name. So yeah, you know, when you hear a weakness, somebody points it out to you and you trust them, listen to what they said, right? Maybe they're a hater, maybe they're not, but listen to what they said. Anyway, I hope this video helps you. I sprinkled in some ideas on what I do. Remember, this is how I do it. Find your way, but remember, if you're not putting in the time, you're going to be like my friend here, Walter Wannabe. He never played a gig. He's 158 years old. He's never played a gig. All right? But he calls himself a drummer. All right? I'm having fun with you. Anyway, join me for the next one. I think you're going to be surprised. I think you're going to like the next one. Anyway, see you soon.